Hi, I said I was going to pop on and tell you a little bit about my sole companion horse, Merlot. It's a picture of my boy. And that's his portrait up there. I purchased Merlot to get him out of a really abusive home. The day I went to view him, this lady took us down to a small private yard at the back of her house. And when we walked on the yard, every horse in the stables went to the back of the box. And I thought that was very odd. And the lady took me to the door of Merlot's stable, and she got a schooling whip in her hand. She opened the door, walked in and beat him. And she didn't know me, she didn't know how I would react to that. And I was absolutely horrified. I asked her to come out, and which she did. And she handed me the head collar in a very angry way and gave me the whip and said, well, if you want to deal with him, it's up to you. Don't say I haven't warned you that he won't have you. So I said, well, I don't want the stick, and I took the head collar off her and I walked into his stable, and he was cowering at the back of the box. And I thought, I wonder how aggressive you really are. Now, he got his ears pinned, welded to his neck, the whites of his eyes showing. And I walked up to him very calmly, in low energy, and spoke to him softly. He allowed me to put his head collar on, and I ran my hand over his body, and my touch induced a flinch every time I touched him. And I thought, I wonder how bad you really are if you are really aggressive. So I went and picked up a front foot. And I think he was just in so much shock that he obliged and gave me his front foot. So I picked up the other front foot. He didn't attempt to bite me or squash me against the wall, but he was clearly terrified of me. So I went to pick up the back feet, which he waved around in the air, but he didn't try and kick me. I picked up the other back foot, it was the same. Took him out of the stable and tied him to a piece of baling string that was attached to the fence. And he put his head down to eat the grass, for which the woman beat him again. And at that point I thought, I can't leave this horse here. It's irrelevant how well he is to handle or to ride or anything. So went through the process of assessing him. He was absolutely awful to ride. But I just thought, I can't leave him here. So I handed over the money and Merlot came home. What I realised I'd bought was a very fear-aggressive horse. Yes, I could go out into the field and put his head collar on, but he certainly didn't want to connect with me, he didn't want to go anywhere with me, and he made that very clear by rearing up on his back legs and trying to get me with his front feet. I just waited for that behaviour to stop. It's quite something when you've got a big horse rearing up on the end of the rope. But it did stop, and he looked at me puzzled because I offered no aggression, I offered no anger, I didn't hit him. It took years for this horse to trust me. I'd say 18 months before he would look at me without a degree of pessimism that something bad was going to happen. So over that period of time, I had to really evaluate how I was going to work with him, because clearly what he'd experienced in the past was abuse. And I had to prove to him without shadow of a doubt that I wasn't going to go down that same road. And it was Merlot that fundamentally, profoundly changed my approach with horses, because he taught me the value of unconditional love. No matter what his behaviour, I had to forgive it instantly on the spot and try and understand and help him to unpack that behaviour. Certainly he was the horse that introduced me to positive reinforcement, because if he'd had a world of negative reinforcement and abuse, flip it and use the polar opposite. And it was doing that that enabled me to open a doorway with Merlot. And I remember very clearly the first day that doorway opened. And I walked across the field to catch him, and instead of his ears being pinned and a sceptical look, he looked at me with his ears forward and walked towards me. And that was the turning point of him wanting to connect. So we went on a profound journey. I helped him unpack a lot of emotional issues and a lot of his behavioural issues, and he became my sole companion horse, who at the end of towards the end of his life, I could ride him with no tack. We did a lot of stuff that was ground-based. Riding really wasn't the big agenda with him. It was more about the connection and the partnership that we had. It was an incredible journey. He passed into spirit in 2012. I've never really got round to sharing his story. It would be a huge video for me to do that. And I'm thinking about how best I can share the insights and knowledge that he gifted me. And certainly a lot of that I have written about in published articles, which I give to you for free on my website. I've certainly written blogs, I've run workshops, and I'm going to be running some in 2023 with Dina over at the Way of the Horse. And I've worked with loads of people to help them with their own horses. It could be a book in its own right, but I just feel I haven't got enough years left in me to write it. So, my boy, who gave me so much, my sole companion horse. I hope you enjoy reading about him on my website, and that I give to you for free.